of this evidence and what part is optional? Where is criterion? What would be enough for you to believe that this person is God?
Good question. If someone claims to be God, I'd like at least three things. First of all, I'd like to be able to examine his lifestyle, how he treats people. And secondly, I'd like to examine his solution to the human dilemma of
what if Christianity's main goal was to make you think for yourself, and that was Jesus' goal? Why are you out here preaching instead of finding who you are?
Well, I am fairly aware of who I am. I'm a mixed up kid. At times I do very good things, and at times I do very evil things. I know who I am. I'm a human being created in the image of God, and I've rebelled against God. I'm a sinner. I deserve God's wrath for my sin. I know who I am. I know that I'm a human being loved by God. Jesus Christ revealed that very clearly. Not only that, I know where I'm going. I know that I'm going to heaven because Jesus promises eternal life to all who put their faith in him. Now, why am I speaking here? Because I celebrate a liberal arts education. Liberal arts education is based on the idea that the free exchange of ideas, discussion, and debate is healthy for the human intellect. I love free thinking, and I can promise you Jesus Christ does not cramp my thinking. Jesus Christ encourages me to use the rational mind he's given me responsibly.
Aren't you preaching that Christianity is the answer?
No, I'm not preaching that Christianity is the answer. I'm preaching that Jesus Christ is the solution to the ultimate human dilemma: evil and death. Now, if you have a better solution to evil and death than the grace of God and the forgiveness of Christ and the power of God's Holy Spirit to change the human heart, please tell me.
Yeah, think for yourself. You come up with what you feel is... If you had never been introduced to the idea of Christianity, would you have that idea now? Would you have just come to that?
Well, obviously, if I've never heard the word Jesus Christ, no, I would not say Jesus Christ. Jesus was an historical person, and eyewitnesses saw him and recorded it, and I've read that history. If I'd never read the history of Napoleon, I wouldn't know that Napoleon fought the Battle of Waterloo. If I never heard the word Abraham Lincoln, I wouldn't know that Lincoln was a U.S. president who was assassinated. Obviously, as a thinking human being, when it comes to historical knowledge, I have to have someone tell me or read a document that records that individual. Well, how do you live your life?
Well, I see the world how I see it, and then I do what I do accordingly.
Okay, well, how do you see the world? Do you think it's a cosmic accident? Or do you think there's got to be an intelligent designer behind it?
I think there's some kind of higher presence, but I don't think it's laid out in this kind of rigid Christian doctrine.
Okay, who is the higher presence that you believe in?
You know, I've never met him. I haven't, sat down and had dinner. I mean, it's an idea. I have to.
Well, how do you know that that higher presence is not just indigestion you're having over a lousy breakfast?
I don't know anything for sure.
You don't know anything for sure?
And neither do you.
Okay, do you know for sure that he's standing there?
In terms of my own reality, yes. But do I know that he's really there? Only in terms of myself.
Okay. Do you know that if you cut yourself with a knife and you start bleeding, that that's real?
Well, only in terms of what I know. But I don't know everything. I never can.
Right, well, I think it's real clear that neither you nor I know everything, okay? So I agree with you 100%. You don't know everything, and I don't know everything. But in spite of that fact, don't we base our lives on evidence? The evidence is he's standing there. That's why you don't swing your hand through his head, right?
I've wanted to in the past.
You've wanted to. Well, why haven't you done it then?
He's a good guy.
He's a good guy. Good. All right, so the evidence is he's a good guy. That's why you don't want to knock his block off, right?
But I don't really know he's there.
You don't really know he's there. Okay. Do you know that the bus is coming down the street when you see it? Stand on a curb and see it?
Yeah, but it's only in terms of what I know.
Good.
I know there's a bus. That's why religion's so hard for me to grasp.
I understand.
You don't know any more than I do about it.
Okay.
Yet you claim to.
Have you ever tried stepping in front of a bus that's coming down Guadalupe?
I got hit by a car once when I was on a bike.
You got hit by a car.
Yeah,
All right, did you want to go back and get hit by a bus after that experience?
not particularly.
Okay, good. So, in other words, you use the rational mind that God has given you to pile up evidence. And the evidence is that getting hit by a car was a very painful experience. You don't want to repeat that. Good. I like the way you think. I agree with you. Now, the question is, in light of the fact that there's so much order and design in this universe, doesn't that demand an intelligent mind? I think you agree, right? Some type of intelligent mind.
Not guiding it, but
No, not guiding or
there's
whatever.
got to be something beyond this idea.
Good. Exactly. All right, we agree. There's got to be something beyond just matter and energy. Now, the question is, does this creator love you and love me? Or is this creator disinterested, wants to disconnect and could give a rip about you and me? I mean, if the creator actually loves you and has a future for you, wouldn't you be interested? I mean, in light of the fact that the creator gave you life and you seem to enjoy life, wouldn't you be interested if this creator loved you and wanted to give you eternal life?
But I can't know that.
Whoa. What do you mean you can't know that?
I don't know this creator.
Well, can you know him?
Again, only in terms of what I know.
Good. But you told me he's a good guy, which obviously communicates I've had a little experience with a guy and he's good. He's not out to rip me off.
What are you trying to say?
What I'm trying to say is the only way you get to know him is because he opens up and tells you his name, tells you what he likes. He displays his character to you by communicating with you. Now, if he can do that, don't you think the creator could possibly do that?
If I was a creator, like let's say I make a house. I want somebody to know I made the house. I don't ambiguously run around in the shadows.
Great point. That's exactly what Jesus revealed. The creator wants you to know him. He wants you to know him so badly that he became a human being. He spoke human language so that you and I, with our limited, finite minds, could begin to understand him. It's pretty incredible, isn't it?
I'm amazed.
Good. But then if you truly are amazed, I'm sure you'll take the time to read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. It's only 140 pages. And ask yourself, does the evidence point to Jesus Christ being reliable when he claims to be God revealing himself in human form? Or does the evidence point to Christ being insane? Along with the three Christ of Ypsilanti, in that mental hospital in Ypsilanti, Michigan, who all thought that they were God. I mean, was Jesus a disillusioned, insane nut? Or does the sanity of Christ leap out at you as you read his ethical teachings, like do unto others as you would have them do unto you? As you read how he treats people with incredible integrity and dignity, as you read about how he dies, nailed to a wooden crossbeam, instead of cursing his enemies the way I would have, he prays, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And 3 days after he dies, he rises from the dead. Yes, sir.
Don't you think Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are biased witnesses, seeing as how they're Jesus' followers?
I've never known a witness who didn't have some type of bias. Have you?
That's true, but you mentioned that, using their work to prove that Jesus is the Son of God. These were his followers. These were the people that believed they're the Son of God. If that's the only writings you have to judge us by, I think that before you made that kind of decision, you'd want a little more information about Jesus.
All right, my point is, Herodotus had his biases. Every historian has had their biases. The question is, what are the tests that you and I use to determine historical reliability? Now, for myself, I have 4 tests: internal consistency, literary style, archaeological evidence, and manuscript evidence. And I'll take those 4 tests and use them on any document that claims to be historical. Internal consistency. It's nice if I've got more than one eyewitness account, because I can compare them. Are there contradictions? No, when you read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, there are definitely different perspectives, but no major contradictions. Tremendous internal consistency. Second test, literary style. Is the literary style of the document? Once upon a time in the land of Nod, Wynken, Blynken, and Odd took a boat ride. Obviously, once upon a time is fairy tale. It's a literary style. Read the Iliad and the Odyssey of Homer. literary style, epic poem. Read the Gospels. It's not fairy tale, it's not epic poem. It's historical narrative. It reads like the LA Times, the New York Times. Third test, archaeology. Are Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John talking about the island of Atlantis out in the ocean that none of us can verify? No, they're talking about Bethlehem, Nazareth, Jerusalem, Rome. Fourth test, come on man, those Gospels are almost 2,000 years old. What gives us any degree of certainty that some pope in the Middle Age didn't pervert them beyond recognition? The New Testament Gospels that we have in English have nothing to do with the Latin Vulgate out of the Middle Ages. The New Testament Gospels that we have in English today are based on over 5,200 Greek manuscripts or pieces of manuscript dated from the 1st through the 10th century AD, all agreeing to an infinitesimal degree. It's amazing the manuscript evidence for the reliability of the New Testament. That's why I trust them to give me accurate history. But the Qur'an gives accurate history also. And if you're going to tell me that Muhammad never lived, that he was a mythological figure that Arabs made up, I'm going to say, I'm sorry, the historical evidence is Muhammad was a real space-time person, and the Qur'an is a very reliable book. So read the Qur'an as history, accurately preserved. Read the Gospels as history, accurately preserved, and ask yourself, does the evidence point to Muhammad being a reliable source of information about God? Does the evidence point to Jesus being a reliable source of information about God?
I think the evidence obviously points to Jesus existed, Jesus lived, but do we have enough evidence to say Jesus did things like turned water into wine, walked on water, things like that? How many eyewitness accounts of this do we have, besides Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John? Do we have enough to base our faith on one person?
Well, Peter and James, along with Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, insisted people saw Jesus perform these miracles. They definitely happened. Now, obviously, they did not happen if there is no supernatural God. And that's what's so frustrating for me. What's so frustrating for me is to listen to some people who have a presupposition of naturalism, read the New Testament and say, obviously, I cannot accept this miracle. And they act like it's a literature problem. It's not a literary problem. It's a philosophical problem. Philosophically, they do not accept the supernatural. And obviously, if there is no supernatural, miracles do not happen. Obviously, if Jesus walked on water, there's got to be some type of supernatural being. Obviously, if Jesus rose from the dead, there has got to be some type of supernatural being, because dead people don't rise and nobody walks on water naturally. But if there is a supernatural God, then it is possible for this supernatural God to change the laws of nature and perform what you and I would call a miracle. So you see, so much of this has to do with your premise, your basic philosophical presupposition.
Why couldn't there be another God somewhere else playing with his own universe somewhere?
You bet. Ma'am, there could be many gods. No question about it. But my point is, I'm not smart enough to figure out God. I depend upon God to reveal himself, herself, itself, themselves, whatever God is. I can't figure out God. And no offense to any of you here, I don't think you're smart enough to figure out God either. You and I depend upon God to reveal who God is.
But doesn't the Bible teach us that there's one God and we should worship only one God?
Jesus Christ insisted that there is one God. Jesus Christ insisted to be revealing the character of God. Jesus Christ insisted, I am God in human form. Now, ma'am, the majority of those types of people we lock up in mental hospitals. But when you read about the lifestyle of Christ, when you read about the quality of his friendships, his sanity leaps out at you, and you cannot assign Christ to a mental hospital. He was amazingly in touch with reality.
So is Jesus then saying, worship the one God that created this universe, but don't worry about the other ones that may be out there?
Jesus insists there aren't any other gods. There's only one God.
Where did he come from? Why is there not just more than one?
He claimed to be God, the eternal God, revealing himself in finite form.
So God just kind of spontaneously became?
All right. Jesus in the Bible insists that God is eternal. No beginning, no end. Now that doesn't satisfy me intellectually. Until I consider the options to the question, who or what is eternal? And I only know of 4 options. If you all know of another one, please give it to me. First option, In the beginning, there was nothing. Obviously, I can't accept that option. Why? Because the only thing that comes from nothing is nothing. You never get something coming from nothing. Second option, matter and energy are eternal. My problem with that is the Big Bang shows us that the universe is not eternal. The universe has a beginning about 15 billion years ago. My problem with that is the second law of thermodynamics, that energy tends to run down. So this whole idea that matter and energy are eternal has some problems with it. Third option, in the beginning, there's an intelligent mind who creates this complex watch, sets it ticking, and then steps back. Disengages, disconnects. That's the deism of Thomas Jefferson. That's Albert Einstein's illimitable awe for the superior mind, spirit behind the universe. And that makes some sense to me. But the fourth option is an exciting option. And that option is that this intelligent mind who created this complex universe actually loves you and wants to live in relationship with you for eternity in heaven. I mean, that is either the most absurd lie I've ever heard, or else it's the best news on the planet. So because of how exciting it is, I think it deserves our serious attention to figure out, is Jesus blowing smoke, or is Jesus speaking the truth?
How do we know that they weren't corrupted or picked the Gospels or whatever that are saying what we want them to say and dismissing the ones that are not saying what we want them to say?
Okay, you're right. The 27 New Testament books were put together in the midst of some conflict, strong disagreement. There are a lot of other Gospels other than Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. There's the Gospel of Peter, the Gospel of the Nazarene, the Gospel of Thomas. There's the Ascension of Isaiah, which is a partial record of this Jesus of Nazareth. So there are a lot of other Gospels. So you ask an excellent question, which is, well, who decided that these 27 New Testament books were going to be the New Testament? The folks who accepted those four Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were the apostles, those who lived with Christ, who saw him die and who saw him risen from the dead. And those folks rejected the Gnostic Gospels, like the Gospel of Thomas. Why? The Gospel of Thomas is based on Gnostic philosophy, which teaches the spiritual is good, the physical is dirty and evil and second-rate. And from Genesis to Revelation, the Bible insists, false. The physical is not dirty, sex is not a sin, it's a beautiful gift from God. The spiritual also is good. But both the physical and the spiritual are good because God created both. And in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, Paul is battling Gnostic asceticism when he argues the resurrection body that Christ has for believers will be a spiritual body. We're not simply going to be a disembodied spirit floating around. You see, Gnosticism was competing for the allegiance of people's faith in the first century church. And those Gnostic Gospels were arguing, your body, second-rate trash. And the Bible insists, no, your body is good. Why? Because it's a big part of who you are. The physical is a gift from God. Therefore, don't trash the physical. So it was the apostolic community that accepted Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Now, was there dispute over certain letters like 2nd and 3rd John that lasted into the 2nd, 3rd centuries? Yes, there was. Was there a council run by the Catholic Church, the way someone told me yesterday, that decided what 27 books were to be, the New Testament? No. All the councils did was to put their stamp of approval on what had already been decided. Example, in the mid-300s, Augustine, the great Christian thinker in Western Europe, lists the 27 New Testament books. Jerome in the East in the mid-300s lists the 27 New Testament books in the mid-300s. Now, the two councils that did sit and put their stamp of approval on the New Testament 27 canonical books were the two councils of Hippo Regius and Carthage in North Africa, and they sat in 393 and 397 AD. But those councils did nothing new. The whole idea that, oh yeah, the Pope and his cardinals got together and they decided arbitrarily what to exclude and what to include in the New Testament is a lie. It is historically inaccurate. That ain't the way it happened. Well, was there a precise process, Cliff, that is clearly understood? No, that's a lie also. It was a pretty painful, difficult process, the putting together of the 27 New Testament books. It's not as clear-cut as I wish it would be, to be honest with you.
You say God's all-knowing, okay, obviously. You say when God looks at things, like looks at our lives, God knows what's the last day is going to be, correct? He knows when the last day is going to come. And he foresees that day, and he knows that day, and he sees everything not like a book, like page by page, like we look at it, right? He sees it in one big picture, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I have a question. They say when you preach salvation, this is probably what you follow as a Christian, correct, right? You follow salvation somewhat? I mean, this is what I feel, okay? God supposedly knows everything you will do, okay? He knows every move you will make. Okay, if he knows before you're born the day you'll die, he knows before you're born if you're going to accept him as your Lord and Savior the whole time you're born, the whole time you're living, correct? So does that mean there are people on earth that are going to go to hell no matter what? They have no choice?
No.
Because he said he's going to give you a choice, right? But he already knows the choice you're going to make. So that's where my misunderstanding comes, because he knows that before you're going to make it.
Right.
So are there people on earth put to go to hell?
But the analogy you gave was perfect. When we say that God knows everything, we do not mean that he sort of has to turn the pages.
I know, I'm saying he looks at the big picture. He just looks at it.
He sees all of history because of his perspective outside of time.
Yes, sir.
He sees all of history at a glance, which means it's due to his position outside of time that he's able to see how you will freely choose.
Yeah, so he knows the day I will die, and he knows what choice I'd make at that time. Correct. He knows exactly what I would do every second of the last day that I'm living, correct? Okay, so he knows everything that I'm going to do every second of the day that I'm living every day that I'm here, correct? Okay, then he knows that if I'm going to accept him as my Lord and Savior or not, correct? So that means there are people that he knows are not going to accept him as Lord and Savior, so they're going to hell. That's why I don't
really choose.
So there are people that are going to hell. He already knows that before.
That's correct.
There are people put on earth to go to hell.
No, that phrase I disagree with. They are not put on earth to go to hell.
But he knows what the final thing is going to be already.
But remember what we said. We said the only reason he knows is not because he's determined what they are going to decide. He knows because of his perspective outside of time.
Because he sees the last day already, and what everybody's choice will be by then.
Right.
So there are people that will not make that choice, and he already sees that day, so he knows that.
Correct.
So there are people that he knows will not accept him as his Lord and Savior and that will go to hell.
Correct.
Before they're born, he knows that they will be born and not go to heaven.
Correct.
Okay, so he knows the day they're born, they will be born and go to hell.
That they will be born and freely choose to go to hell. Yes, sir.
But God knows what choice you're going to make before you're born.
Yes.
So there are people on this earth that don't have the chance to make a choice because he already knows.
No, they do have a chance. That's where we disagree. When we say that God knows what I'm going to do tomorrow, we do not mean that God writes on a piece of paper what I'm going to do tomorrow, locks it in a bank vault, and then tomorrow I have to do what's written on the piece of paper. That's determinism. We do not mean that. What we do mean is, due to his perspective outside of time, God sees past, present, and future at a glance.
One big picture.
Exactly.
We look at life as a book. He looks at it as a big picture.
You got it. That's right.
So he can look over here at the end of the picture. He sees the end of the picture.
Exactly.
He sees the whole picture.
Right. It's due to his perspective that he is able to see the future. It's not because he's determining the future. It's because of his perspective outside of time.
Okay, but he already has a plan laid out for everyone, right?
No.
He doesn't have a plan?
No.
This is not the Lord's plan?
Not in the sense that it was God's plan for me to have a racist attitude.
Well, did he know you were going to have a racist attitude before you...
Yes.
Okay.
But he knew, but that was not his plan for me. God's plan for me was not to be racist. God's plan for me was to love and respect all people.
But he knew you were
If I freely choose to be a racist, he will judge me for that. Why would he hold me responsible for that? Because he knows I made a free decision to be racist. I didn't have to be racist.
But my misunderstanding, maybe I'm repeating myself, is that if he sees the beginning and the end, and he knows what I'll do every day of my life, he knows the decisions I'll make, then he knows that I'm not going to heaven in the end.
Yes,
well, I'm not saying me myself, but I'm saying he knows that certain people are not going to heaven in the end, for instance.
Right. That's
Okay,
right.
so he does know people are not going to heaven in the end, certain people. So there are people that are placed on this earth that are not going to heaven, so other places they would go would be hell.
Hell, right.
So there are people placed on this earth to go to hell.
No. You slip across the line into determinism. That's what you do. God did not put any of us here in order that we might go to hell.
Obviously, the intent was not there, but he knows what we're going to do every day.
Yeah. Just remember, I hold back, slap the guy, and tell you, God made me do it. No, God did not make me slap this gentleman. God gave me a hand and a free will. He holds me responsible for how I use this hand. If I choose to use the hand to feed him, that is good. If I choose to use the hand to smack him with a fist, that's evil. Now, because God is eternal and outside of the dimension of time, he sees tomorrow today. So yes, God sees what I will freely choose to do because of his perspective outside of time.
I don't need any religion to withdraw from, to absent from the torture of innocent child. There are many other aspects which are relative.
All right, why is the torture of an innocent child absolutely evil? Why?
The most of religion will support the point of view about innocent child. I don't know any religion which
Yeah, that's not my point.
have other
My
points.
point is not that Jesus is the truth. My point is that if there is no God, there are no moral absolutes because morality is just a construct of the human mind. So it's all just a perspective, a bias, a prejudice.
Cliffe,
But if there is some type of God, then it's possible that this God has created and defined moral absolutes.
there is no need in religion for the case with child in the moral.
Fine, then answer the question. Why is the torture of an innocent child wrong?
We
Why?
don't like it. We don't accept
We don't like
This
it.
is enough,
Fine.
Cliffe.
But if somebody does like to torture children, then their rebuttal to you is, I'm sorry, I like to torture children. Now, what's the basis of you saying, no, torturing innocent children is wrong?
Cliffe,
What's your basis?
I-
Why?
I dislike it. This
Good.
is enough for me.
Bravo, good for you. But that doesn't make, just because you don't like something, doesn't mean it's a moral absolute. Come on.
We don't need the moral absolute.
Fine.
For the
Then
example,
do you really
child.
believe that the torture of an innocent child is sometimes all right?
I don't think so.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. So you do believe that there are a few moral absolutes. The only way there can be a moral absolute is if there is some type of mind prior to the human mind that creates and defines right and wrong.
If you have
That's
something,
tremendous.
if you have something that God wrote, please speak on that. Or if you have something that a pure representative says, then say that. Otherwise, it's just speculation. What good is speculation? I can speculate something, but nobody would want to hear that.
Well,
I'm
great.
not saying you're speculating.
That's a
but
great
let's
point. No, I'm not speculating. You're absolutely right. I'm not out here saying,
Let's go-
hey, guess what, guys? I have this idea. You all embrace my idea. I'm not saying that. I'm standing here urging people to explore Jesus of Nazareth, a real space-time person.
Okay.
Jesus is not an idea that I came up with.
Did he say thou shalt not kill?
Jesus said, you've heard that it was said,
Are the
do not murder. But I tell you that if you are angry with someone and say, you fool, you'll be in danger of the fire of hell. So yes, Jesus stood by the commandment that says, thou shalt not kill.
Is it very clear? Kill. Is that
No,
very
it's
clear?
not very clear kill. It's very clear murder.
I thought you just said it said kill.
Good question. Great question. What's the difference between murder and killing? Real simple. You and I walk into McDonald's. We see a guy spraying machine gun bullets into children's bodies. You hit him high, I hit him low, we break his neck in the process. That is not murder. That is killing motivated by a drive to preserve the innocent from being slaughtered. I pull out a gun, blow you away. Why? Because I think guys with hacky sacks should be blown away. That's murder. That's killing motivated by selfishness, hatred, revenge. There's an ethical difference between murder and killing. Do you see it or not?
I see it, but I don't agree with it.
You've got to be kidding me. You don't agree with
I'm
that?
not kidding you at all. I just disagree with what you're saying.
You don't think
Can I
there's
have
a
my own
difference
opinion, or are you-
between me killing this man because he is spraying machine gun bullets into everybody's body? You don't see the ethical difference between that action versus me murdering him because I don't think guys with Guinness hats on should be allowed to
You
live.
said you would murder him, whereas you just said 5 minutes ago that you would kill him. You're confusing what you're saying. You're going back on everything you're saying.
All right, let me make it real simple. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
No problem.
All right.
Understand your example.
You don't see the ethical difference between him shooting everybody. Good. Very good. He starts shooting everybody, and I hit him as hard as I can to stop him from shooting everybody over there.
No, I'm not.
You don't see the difference between that versus me coming up and blowing him away because I don't like him. You don't see the ethical difference there? You think it's the same?
Did I say that?
Yeah, that's
No.
what you said earlier.
No, I didn't. I said I disagreed with it. I didn't say I think it was the same. So why don't you stop putting words into my mouth?
All right, then explain yourself.
Good, I will explain myself. If you don't have to take someone's life in order to stop them from an action, you don't take their life. You take them
Fine.
down in any means possible, right?
All right.
You don't have to kill someone to do it. Who said murder and killing has to be done in order to stop someone from shooting other people? Why can't you take the guy down and hold him down as much as possible? But I understand that if you take the man's life, in the course of him taking others' life, that
Right.
you're trying to say it's justified. I disagree that it's justified by killing someone while he's murdering others. Either way, it's not justified because death isn't justifiable.
Fine. My simple point was the gentleman asked a question about the commandment, and the commandment in Exodus chapter 20, thou shalt not kill, is referring to murder. And there's an ethical difference between murder versus killing motivated by a drive to stop the slaughter of innocent people. When American soldiers fought against Nazi Germany, that was not murder. They were obeying the government, seeking to stop Hitler from slaughtering more people. That is not murder.
But they were bombing cities
Yeah?
with children.
Yes. And that's wrong that we killed innocent civilians. Correct.
There was no other way, perhaps.
All right, thank
But
you.
it is not in the course of the Christianity. Sorry.
Very
about
good.
that.
You're right. As a follower of Christ, no American soldier wants to kill innocent civilians. Correct.
No doubt they did not want.
That's
the
right.
question, how is it possible to stop violence being still in the Christianity?
All right, as a follower of Christ, I am convinced that the solution to the violence in this world is the love and the radical power of Jesus Christ to change the human heart. But as a follower of Christ, I also am going to be committed to using force when people are destroying humans' lives. And I'm very grateful for the police. I'm very grateful for those in our armed forces who are committed to stopping people from slaughtering innocent people.
Very good, Cliff. This
Thank
is
you.
example where the Christian moral becomes relative. It is impossible, it is bad, absolutely evil to torture innocent child.
Good.
But if there is no way to stop the violence unless the bombing of cities, it is moral, is it acceptable? He is example of relativity of the moral.
Exactly. Yes, sir.
In the debate, you mentioned how you challenged some of your atheist friends, and you recognize that they're actually being rather hypocritical and not following their beliefs.
Yes.
What can you touch on some of those areas and how
You
you
bet.
challenge them?
I think it's real obvious to all of you out here that I claim to be a follower of Jesus Christ. If after I finish speaking out here, you watch me go out and womanize, what are you going to call me? A hypocrite, a liar. Very good. Bravo, guys. You know very, very well that Jesus is not someone I made up in my head. And my Jesus allows me to go out and womanize and rip people's Social Security check off. You know that that's false. Why? Because you know that Jesus taught honesty, sexual purity, integrity, compassion, crystal clear. No question about it. Very good. So if I claim to be a follower of Christ, you're not going to want to watch me go around womanizing, ripping people's Social Security check off. Good. You want me to be consistent. If I say I believe in Christ, you want to watch me live that out, struggle to live it out. Good. In the same way, if you, sir, tell me that you're an atheist, then I'm going to hold you to be consistent. Which means, you're not going to tell me that there's some ultimate purpose to human life. If you're an atheist, there is no purpose to human existence. Our number came up in a Monte Carlo game, and life is ultimately meaningless. And that's what Camus, Sartre, Nietzsche had the guts to face. The problem with the majority of my atheist friends is they don't have the intellectual integrity and courage to live out the meaninglessness of life. Instead, my atheist friends like to say, oh, here's the meaning of life. Baloney. If there is no God, life is a crapshoot. Second point, if you're going to tell me you're an atheist, fine, I respect your right. But you better not tell me that to torture an innocent child is absolutely wrong. You better tell me it's relatively wrong, because all morality is relative. Which means, if you're an atheist, you have to acknowledge it doesn't matter whether I become Hitler or Mother Teresa. It's simply an arbitrary taste, choice. Thirdly, if you're an atheist, you better not tell me that, oh yeah, maybe there's something after death for me. No, there's one thing after death for you: rotting. That's all. So you better not tell me that maybe there's a bright future out there. You better face the despair, the total despair of life. That's why Albert Camus, the great French atheistic existentialist philosopher, said, the only question that modern man must answer is, why not commit suicide? Life is meaningless. Morality is relative. Death ends the absurdity that your birth began. Thank you, Camus, for your intellectual consistency and courage in facing the logical conclusion of your atheism. I've been speaking on university campuses for 25 years. It's a long time. I've met 1.5 students who claim to be atheists who have had the courage to live out their atheism. One was a student from Soviet Union who was at Northwestern University outside Chicago. This guy said, there is no God, and because there is no God, my life is meaningless, morality is relative, and death is the end. And then he said something I'll never forget. He said, but you know, I'm really concerned for my fellow American atheists because they don't have the guts, they don't have the courage to face that. Instead, they go running around saying, you know, when you Russians blasted that Korean airliner out of the air, that was really wrong. Oh, baloney, it wasn't really wrong. Nothing's really wrong. Nothing's really right. It's all relative. The half student was at UC San Diego. This guy steps out of the crowd and he says, yeah, I'm an atheist and I realize life is meaningless, morality is relative, it really doesn't matter what I do, and death is the end. And then he said something I'll never forget. He said, but when I really seriously consider that, I get very, very sad. And my mother gets very, very concerned for me. So I don't think about it too much. That's good. So come on, you atheists, run away. Run away as fast as you can from the logical, intellectually consistent conclusions, consequences of your atheism. That's why Bertrand Russell, the great British atheist philosopher, talked about unyielding despair. Russell faced the despair of his atheism, and then he said, but you just can't give in, guys. You can't give in to that despair. Just got to keep running away from it.
What part is necessary of this evidence and what part is optional? Where is criterion? What would be enough for you to believe that this person is God?
Good question. If someone claims to be God, I'd like at least 3 things. First of all, I'd like to be able to examine his lifestyle how he treats people. And secondly, I'd like to examine his solution to the human dilemma of sin. And thirdly, I'd like to be able to examine whether he's able to beat mortality.
The big love.
Beat mortality, beat death. If he claims to be God, I certainly hope he can beat death, if he's a supernatural God.
You need the person to show some supraphysical marvels as proof, do you?
I'd like to see his lifestyle, his morality. Secondly, I'd like to see his solution to the dilemma of human evil, human sin. And thirdly, I'd like to see his ability to beat death.
Good.
And that's what Jesus Christ reveals marvelously. Christ lived a sinless life. Christ pointed out that the dilemma of sin he has dealt with through his death on a cross. And Christ rises from the dead, beating death. That's why when he claims to be God in human form, I trust him.
Well, Cliff, now you like the Michael. Monday, Michael suggested that God makes the marvels and appears in front of public. Now you claim the same from anybody who claims to be God, do you?
If someone claims to be God, I want to examine their lifestyle. I want to listen to their solution to the problem of evil. And I want to see whether they can beat death. And if they can do those three things, I'd be very impressed.
Hence, nobody can claim to be God unless to be crucified.
No. You don't have to be crucified. Resurrected, though. Yeah, beating death.
And you'll not believe him until he was killed and resurrected.
Well, yeah, if someone claims to be God in human form, well, I want to see whether they can beat death or not. I mean, anybody can say, I'm God in human form. I need some evidence, though. I'm not just going to say, oh, I believe you.
Vedic teachings state that there's 8,400,000 species, and the soul transmigrates through those species.
Yeah, well, I'm convinced that you never were a frog. And I'm convinced that you never were an ape.
I'm convinced
you're a human being created in the image of God.
I think you're in ignorance there.
All right.
I'm not a human being. I'm a spirit soul and a human body right now. And over there behind you is a spirit soul and a plant body. And you're
All right.
stepping on...
Well, then is there any difference between me stepping on you and me stepping on the flower? Yeah, but think with me a second. You got a human head, you have a cow's head, and you have a head of lettuce. You take out a machete, whap, off with the head of lettuce. Whap, off with the cow's head. Whap, off with the human head. Is there an ethical difference in those three actions?
We accept knowledge from God. He says you can have the plant form to eat, but first it's sacrificed to him.
Yeah, well, I just basically explained to you why your worldview I cannot accept. Because from your worldview, there's no difference between cutting a human head versus cutting a head of lettuce.
I never said that.
Yes, you did.
No.
You said your real significance is that you have a spirit, and that flower's real significance is that that flower has a spirit. Well, if you both have a spirit, then I have no justification in stepping on the flower, and I obviously have no justification in stepping on you.
It says, gives the sanction for what for us to eat and kill and to utilize in his service. For example, the human form is meant for a vegetarian diet. It also states that in Genesis 1:29, if you want to reference the book that you're probably big on.
All right.
But he offers a leaf of flower, fruit, or water with love and devotion. I'll accept that offering. That's one of his writings in a book that he wrote himself with his own hand.
If you read the Vedas and Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita clearly enough, you cannot mistake the fact that everything is part of God according to that worldview. If everything is part of God, then there's no ethical basis for distinguishing it between cutting a head of lettuce, cutting a cow's head, cutting a human head. It's all part of God.
Well, I'm headed that there is a discrepancy between where you're going and what is meaningful and why people choose to get up every day. And it might not have anything to do with the higher power. Maybe it does have something to do with procreation, and we just somehow distort it into being something else, like higher meaning. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, but let me just tell you about my experience. I've worked among prostitutes in inner city Boston and pimps. And I understand a man pulling out his wallet paying a prostitute to have sex with her. But I have experienced something more in observing other men who really love this woman, and even if they can't have sex with her, they still want to care for her, provide for her.
Sure. It goes back to my chimp and the kitten story then.
Okay, good. Well, my point is, this innate ability to love is not simply a sex drive. This innate ability to love is a free decision to care for somebody else.
Much like that chimp who has no...
Well, I don't know about the chimp. Maybe the chimp can love, all right?
Well, then why do chimps get depressed and need to go on Prozac?
I don't have the faintest idea. I've never been able to psychoanalyze a chimp. I don't know. All I know is myself and other human beings who I can have intelligent conversations with. And I know that we human beings can choose to love or we can choose to hate. We don't have to do either. Yes, we have sex drive, and that's good. There's nothing wrong with a sex drive. But that's not all there is to love. There's the ability to genuinely care for another human being.
Right, and in the end, that caring promotes the procreation of your offspring because you have a higher chance, statistically, of moving your offspring into their next generation if you are a tandem. Maybe via our evolutionary process, love was the thing that bound us together to help our children procreate.
So you think social Darwinism drives us to care for handicapped people? You think survival of the fittest motivates us to give up some of our limited financial resources to care for people?
Then I go back to the chimp and the kitten.
And what about it?
The unabridged version.
That you think that chimp cares for that kitten because there's something in it for her?
I told you.
I know.
I do not know about the chimp. I've never had a meaningful conversation with a chimp. I honestly don't know. But I do know that we human beings can genuinely care for each other. And I do know that that value of love tells me there's more to reality than matter and energy. There's a free will. There's this innate ability that we human beings have to genuinely care. Maybe the chimp can, maybe the chimp can't. Right. I don't know about a chimp. I've never had a good conversation with a chimp.
Let's just, for the sake of argument, since that's what we're doing today, think that the chimp can care. Because you're doing a lot of, you're asking us to have faith. So I'm asking you to have faith right now. In saying, geez, chimps, some can sign, some can say, I love you. They have depression. So I'm saying, I'm wrestling with it.
Okay, but my point is rather simple. My point is, if there is no God, chimps don't love, people don't love. Because if there is no God, reality is matter and energy. That's all there is, matter and energy. Which means what you and I call love, be it loving a chimp with a kitten, or be it human love, is simply an instinct, a biological drive. And I'm telling you, sir, although I don't know about the chimp, I do know that for us human beings, there's more than just matter and energy. There's this innate ability to genuinely love, which tells me there's more to reality than simple matter and energy. There's got to be some type of God who gives us this innate ability to genuinely love.
Maybe that love emotion you're feeling is some sort of synapses firing in your brain that we haven't had the ability to explain yet.
Okay, fine. You're right. Maybe that's what it is. I can sit on the side of my bed tonight, and I can judge myself. I can know myself. I can critique myself. I can say, Cliff, when you responded to that person, good job. When you respond to that person, disrespectful, don't do that again. See, I have a free will, which means when I treated him the way I did, when I treated him the way I did, I didn't have to do it. I chose to do it. And I can change my behavior. I can choose to love instead of being hateful or disrespectful. In other words, there's more to me than just synapses firing. See, if what you say is correct, that it's all just synapses firing, then think about it. It's just synapses. Wow. Cliff, why'd you do that? Because the synapse fired.
But then you were going into a whole self-preservation mode. Because you know that in that particular instance, there'll be consequences. Not on a God level, but just on a social level, on a social Darwinism level.
Yeah, but if If Darwinism speaks the truth, then I'm not free. I am biologically, chemically determined.
Jeez, I know. Maybe.
Not maybe, definitely.
Maybe.
If there is no God, if Darwinism tells the whole story, I don't have free will. I just do what I am chemically determined to do. I'm a machine.
You will follow the path of least resistance.
And my experience of life is we are more than complex biochemical machines. We have a free will. We have the ability to love or to choose not to love and to hate. Now, all I'm saying is, isn't that an accurate story of you? Am I not reading your mail? I mean, isn't that who you are? A man who can choose to love even your enemy, or you can hate your enemy and blow your enemy out of the water.
I think we're digressing. The original point I was trying to make was the idea that earlier you alluded to the fact that if you're truly an atheist, then your life is meaningless.
Right.
That you need some sort of higher meaning in your life to get out of bed every day, if you're really honest with yourself. True? Am I reading you wrong?
No, you're right.
Okay. And what I was trying to juxtapose was the idea that there are many things out there, in addition to humans, that might not necessarily have a higher meaning or need one to get out of bed in the morning.
You're right. And that's why I talked about Bertrand Russell's unyielding despair. Bertrand Russell did get out of the bed every morning, right?
Okay.
But his point was, despair is the only logical conclusion, but I'm not going to give in to it. And obviously Sartre and Nietzsche and Camus didn't either. But you see, what they had the courage to say was, it's meaningless, but in spite of that, I'm going to continue to keep going.
Right.
Too many atheists run around not facing the meaninglessness of it all. They instead attach great significance to their lives, great significance to love and to...
Okay.
And that's being intellectually inconsistent.
Okay. I got you.